So why don't we do a quick introduction? So this is the first time we're streaming from the Paratope Twitch channel in quite some time. I am Justin. I'm the co-founder at Paratope, and I have been working with the Stadia community and the team at Stadia for about 18 months. So we've got a long history with these guys, and these are three esteemed members of the cloud gaming community. We have V from the Stadia Discord. Would you mind doing a quick introduction?
Hello, I'm VV. You may know me if you're either on the Stadia Discord or on Reddit. I'm one of the moderators over on the Reddit, and I'm also the admin on the Discord, as well as being a Stadia product expert. Well, I am for at least another few months.
Excellent. And Scarlett, would you like to do the same?
Hey, Scarlett Stream here. I am the brand manager for Gaming Source Network. So anything visually pretty that you see on our YouTube channel, that's probably from me.
Let's finish with Lee. Would you like to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm Lee, or Tartan Troot, and I have been the content manager for the Gaming Source Network for well over 2 years now. And of course that involved Stadia Source and still GFN Source. Basically my role's just been news and interviews and everything that falls under that umbrella.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys all for joining today. I really appreciate it. I think we'll get right into our topics. Obviously, an unfortunate time for Team Stadia. But I'd like to start with, what were you doing when you found out Stadia was shutting down?
I was working, I guess. I work all day long. What it was I was in my office, and I was just putting together some displays and stuff. And normally I have Slack pings turned off because various reasons, and for some reason I had them turned on that day, and our GSN Slack kept going, and I was like, okay, what the heck is going on? I decided to check Facebook first because they can wait because nobody's tagged me. And Facebook had exploded because Stadia is one of the pages that I follow to make sure it's always at the top. And there was people were like, it's shutting down. I was like, no, it's not. And then I go to Twitter, it's shutting down. I was like, okay. So I go to GSN, everybody's like, it's shutting down. I was like, oh, great. So
a bombard of red notifications.
Yes.
Understood. Maybe Lee, you want to recollect those fatal moments?
Yeah, I was actually cooking dinner at the time. I was making macaroni and cheese, so I had this the saucepan on the hob. I was stirring the sauce, and I was actually watching. You're probably all familiar with Rock, who's doing his usual 5 o'clock show here in the UK. So I had Rock. I had my phone propped up next to me. I was cooking. Rock was on, and then Rock just says, "Well, I think someone had come into his chat and said Stadia was shutting down." So I just heard Rock saying it, and I looked at my phone. And I saw his face. And I thought, no, can't be. So of course I stopped, took everything off the hogs. I thought, no, I've got to check into this. And yeah, lo and behold, quick search on Twitter, and there it was. That Stadia was going to be closing down in January next year. And a big shout out to Rock, by the way, because he went on and did like another 2 hours on that show, and he was absolutely knocked it out of the park. He was awesome, absolutely awesome.
A tragic bowl of mac and cheese.
It was.
Never have mac and cheese the same way again.
No. My kids enjoyed it. I didn't.
Oh.
Excellent. And lastly, V?
I was at a board game night, actually, at work. I was unusually inaccessible, actually, so we'd all agreed we're going to turn our phones off and we're just going to play some games. We're playing a game called Dead of Winter. I'm an avid board game, as you can probably tell from the few board games in the background. So my phone was just buzzing repeatedly. My phone was just like, what the hell's going on? I was like, look, it's fine, I'll just ignore it. We'll keep playing. And eventually it was buzzing too much. I thought, you know what, I've got to check this. Checked my phone, and then, just saw like Stadia's dead and all this stuff, and I thought, that can't be true. I was like, I even said to my friend, oh, apparently Stadia's dead, as a bit of a joke. And then as I carried on reading, and I saw it was actually on the we have like a little Reddit moderator private chat, and it was on there. I was like, holy moly. And it's like typical. Normally when there's big news, make sure that, I'm going to be available to moderate Discord, moderate the Reddit, and, it's kind of all hands on deck. But obviously no one was aware that this was going to happen. So, I just happened to be out playing board games, and it all hell went loose. And I had to really apologize to moderator friends because I couldn't just up and leave. We're in the middle of what was turn out to be another hour-long game and then half-hour drive home. So, yeah, it was quite shocking, to be fair. It was just completely unexpected.
So we have a board game interruption, mac and cheese. I mean, this was like, it just caught you by the legs, I personally was just scrolling through Twitter. I checked the game page and the company page every day, and I saw the official Google tweet, and it was, right from them. So it had to be real. And I think that things just kind of went downhill pretty quickly from there. So I think now that we've kind of set the stage for what's happened here, what I would like to ask is, where do you think things went wrong, specifically with the rollout of Stadia in kind of big steps? Because the way that I look at it, you have the shutdown of the internal studios, which was the first big blow to the Stadia consumer, showing that Google was retracting some of their interest and investment. And then I think the second big blow was the switch to business-facing Project Stream, or I forget the name that they used, but there was a white label name that they had, and I think that
Immersive Stream.
Yeah, Immersive Stream, right? And this kind of took the emphasis away from the consumer-facing branch, which is where we're all sitting. So maybe you guys, anyone want to start first? Any particular thoughts you think of where things started to kind of go in the wrong direction?
I mean, a lot of people take it back to SG&E, and whilst I think that was probably it was a very brash decision to have made, I think at the time, with what was going on, obviously Bethesda being bought up by Microsoft, and them deciding, okay, we can't compete in this first party world. I don't think that was necessarily a bad decision from Stadia if they'd have reinvested in the right areas. And I think they'd started to make some right moves as well in the right direction, and trying to make it easier for porting of games, working on native libraries for Windows versions of games, even going as far as actually working on their own, I can't think of the word, but similar to Proton, trying to make their own.
Oh, right, yes, yeah, we'll talk about that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they were starting to make those right decisions, and in all honesty, it seems to have come fairly out of the blue. I think it's probably more indicative of wider problems within Google in that they'd not hit their financial targets, and they needed to basically shed some cost, and unfortunately I think Stadia was just hit by one of those. I don't think there's anything that you can really point to that says this was the nail in the coffin. I think it's just accumulation of market trends, and unfortunately the underperformance of Stadia compared to some of their other initiatives.
Yeah, I mean that definitely touches on some other talking points I have here, but Scarlett, Lee, do you guys have any other inklings to Nick's in the road? We know the Stadia Games Entertainment, but I think I have some particular instances. Do you guys have anything that strikes you as being things that just drove people in the wrong direction? It kind of pushed people away.
I think the first time that I thought there was maybe something, happening there, it was at the time when SG&E closed, but not for SG&E wasn't the reason. When that happened, I spoke to a few people, journalists in the industry, and one in particular, I won't say who it was, but they were quite upfront with me, and they said, listen, basically, Stadia's taken their slate of games that they've got for 2021, 2022, and they said they scratched a lot of the games off. And it's games that they were funding. They're pulling funding from developers, and they're pulling a lot of the games from that slate. And then I discovered that the Stadia Makers program was no longer being offered to developers. And when I heard that, I thought, right, so it's not just they've stopped SG&E, because I could see the reasons why they did it. The Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft, I think it was maybe a little too late in the game for SG&E. I don't think it would have changed much if they did come out with an exclusive at that point. But when I heard that they were now pooling funding from games that they were, they wanted to bring to Stadia and pooling funding from developers. I thought, right, so there's maybe a commitment issue from Google there. They've obviously not met the targets for that first year they wanted to, and now they're sort of pulling back some of it. And maybe that the full 100% full-on commitment that we thought they had at the time just maybe wasn't there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I'll touch on that particularly as being a developer in the Makers program, how that played out as well. Scarlett, did you have any last thoughts on this topic?
So hindsight's always 20/20, especially when it comes to a business. But a good way of starting a business is to have something to actually sell. And they had, a few games to begin with. They came out with Destiny 2 is free to anybody who gets, as a founder. It comes with Stadia Pro. They had a few things, but I think part of the issue that led to the SG&E shutdown was that they started the business before they started their games. Had they started making just one game before, they're like, okay, we're going to spend 2 years, we're going to work on this game, and it's going to be developed and made for Stadia, our upcoming cloud platform. Then, that game could have been going. They could have had it done within a year or two of Stadia's launch, and then they would have really known, Stadia can actually work. But instead, they started making a game after Stadia had already launched, and we know how long it takes to make a game. It's not that easy, especially if you're trying to make a AAA title, which it sounds like they wanted to be able to do was to have their own AAA style type games, as opposed to, making maybe smaller games, like your side scrollers or whatever like that, right? So it feels like there's just timing was slightly off when it came to certain things. I think if they had started making even just one game before they had started Stadia, I think it actually would have helped, because they would have been like, okay, we are launching this game that specifically works phenomenally on a cloud platform. It is meant to be played on a cloud platform. Then people would have been like, oh, like, this is really cool. And I think there would have been a lot more interest in it as well.
100%. So I think the kind of perfect storm here is the shutdown of Stadia Games Entertainment, the lack of continued developer support through bringing titles over for licensing, and then also a timing issue where it's almost as if they started with shooting themselves in the foot, because they came out of the gates with an incomplete PR campaign. It's free to play, but people still misconstrued that free to play, free to use model. Today I actually wanted to pull up a tweet that I had put together where someone, even just like last week, was saying, you had to pay for the effing thing, you had to pay for the games.
Yeah.
You had
to get a console,
Yes.
you had to get... It's like there's no
Right.
console, though. You didn't even have to buy the controller.
Exactly. And I think that because they released the product with the Chromecast, it was assumed that you needed a Chrome hardware component. And I think that they never got away from that. So all being said, unfortunately, the consumer was poorly educated. So that, in combination with them saying, look, we're not giving developers money for the Makers program, we're not giving developers money to make games, it was a combination of those things. Now, I don't think that necessarily was a nail in the coffin. They could have come back from it, but we'll touch on that later. I wanted to actually pipe in for a second about Skyclimbers, because obviously that's how we are involved with Stadia. And at the time of the close down, the week of, we were planning to have a meeting with our Stadia account representative. We were actually planning to meet that week to talk about potentially an alpha test at the end of the year. So obviously it was not the type of response that we were hoping to get. And in fact, before we even had before we had even had time to schedule the meeting, I found out online, that Stadia was closing down. I think one of the biggest lost opportunities was the Makers program. Now, we received a dev kit, and we did receive dev credits, meaning that we could basically test the game for free on the Stadia servers, which is excellent. But that initial energy fizzled out immediately. So, there was that initial, we got the Kickstarter, we were speaking to people at Stadia, things had some momentum, and then gone. And while they did continue dialogue in a way that was very encouraging, they would frequently check in with us. They would actually be even somewhat hands-on and try to get some help. But I think a big problem was actually their Unity partnership. Unity did not get on the ground and speak loudly about the Stadia ecosystem. And Unity didn't come to us and, hand walk us through or even give us dedicated support in the sense like, download this package. This is going to help you. So, and our technical account manager was kind of surprised by that. So I think that their choice to with the Linux framework was complicated. But as V was pointing to, there was a Proton style. I won't say this officially, but because it was never publicly stated, but all indications were pointing towards a future where games would run on Stadia like they did on Steam Deck. And as you all know, Steam Deck is taking off like crazy because developers can take their games and this Proton layer essentially mimics the type of environment it would run on for Windows. So I think that looking at what went wrong, if they had successfully rolled out the Proton style solution or something to make the games run almost immediately, I think it could have been saved. Which is why it does feel like we were driving and, we got a flat tire and then the engine gasket blew, but the car was still moving and it was almost at the destination and then it just died. So I think that's one thing that will sit with me as the most unfortunate situation or part of the situation is that they were on the cusp of true breakthrough. Whereas if they had achieved that, the amount of games could have 10x'd. So that's, I think, the most unfortunate thing to see happen, and it's kind of some insight for some Skyclimbers inside news, so to speak, because Skyclimbers runs pretty well on the Steam Deck. We've got it to run at comparable frame rates to low-end PCs, so it would have been a very easy transition. I wanted to touch next upon how you got into using the Stadia platform and cloud gaming in general. So how did you get introduced to Stadia? And if so, were you already gaming or were you kind of not even, I know a lot of people in the Stadia community were not even gamers really at the time, like they're kind of retired and then they got back into it. So if you guys could touch upon that. Maybe V, you want to start us off? Or Scarlett, I think I heard you say something.
Yeah, I'll go. So my husband and I, we were watching I think it was just the Google presentation that was going on when Stadia was announced. And, we were already playing games and stuff. Like, we're not like hardcore gamers who like live stream and all that, but we love our games. We have a very specific style of video game that we quite enjoy. And Stadia got announced and I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh my gosh, Google products and the controller looks awesome. And you're telling me I don't have to have a next-gen console. Don't get me wrong, we were still going to hopefully have next-gen consoles because how else are we going to play, some of those exclusive games and stuff. But, it looked cool. It seemed like a really good price. I was excited by the fact that I could actually use my gamer tag and have no numbers after it or no underscores or anything like that. That was the exciting part for me.
On a fresh platform, there's no competition.
on a fresh platform. So yeah, no competition, presumably a lack of trolls, and so I was excited as somebody who's I want to get into playing some of these MMOs. They talked about Destiny 2, and I was like, I've been interested in Destiny, but I just can't because we don't have online capabilities. That's always an extra fee or whatever, but this was going to be, I could play online with my friends now without having to pay extra for it. It was just all really exciting, and so I was like, can we order it? And 10 minutes after it was announced, we ordered it, and it was, super exciting, and I was just talking about it left and right on Twitter. That was kind of my start on Twitter too, which was really kind of funny. And Stadia was just really, I felt to me, they were open and the community managers were super nice. I received one of those initial thank you packages that had the backpack and the water bottle, and stuff like that. And it was just, I felt like I had finally found a group of people who were excited to play games and be nice to each other as opposed to trying to beat each other up. So I was really trying to get into the good community of Stadia, and that it all started with that announcement on the Google presentation.
So that's all it took, was just a product reveal to get you
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, it shows that at face value there was a lot to offer, and there was a lot to be gained from using the platform, which is pretty telling.
Yeah.
Lee or V, do you guys have any recollection of where you started using the service, and where you were at? Were you playing on PC, or what were you doing at the time?
When I've been gaming for a long time, so, but part of that, I've always been interested in gaming news. I follow it quite closely. So obviously, when the rumors were flying that Google was going to enter, the gaming space, first of all, nobody knew, was it going to be a console, was it going to be some sort of device, and then of course Project Stream came about, and it was Assassin's Creed Odyssey being streamed from a Chrome browser. So obviously I tuned into the GDC presentation, and I was like, yes, I'm really interested in this. And then rolled on to the, I believe it was Gamescom, another presentation at Gamescom, and then that's when the Founders Edition was revealed, if I remember correctly. So like Scarlett, as soon as that happened, within 5-10 minutes, I had it pre-ordered, and I was like, that's really exciting. It was different. It was innovative. It was something we hadn't seen before in gaming. Okay, we had On Live, and GeForce Now at that point was, gaining a little bit of traction, and but this was a brand new gaming platform, completely in the cloud. It was
right. A true.
It was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was, and I know, to kind of. Now that you reminded me, that was when Tejas and I, my co-founder, we also kind of jumped on the bandwagon, was at that announcement. Now that I remember, It was the GDC or the one of those Gamescom, and I remember they had the big announcement. There was a lot of skepticism, but I said right away, Google is one of the largest data center companies in the world, one of the largest software engineering firms in the world. They're going to be the ones that make this function. Now, second in line, you have Microsoft. They have Azure Cloud, and we'll get into that later. But when the gates opened, I gave Google a fair shot. I think most people saw it and said, look, this is a big company. Gaming is a tough market. Yes, Google's got a lot of money. So I think once it was revealed, I do think that there was a lot more positive than negative sentiment in this category of consumer. V, do you have a positive or significant memory of when you got into it?
Can I just say something real quick?
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No, of course.
That then became like the most stressful next few weeks ever, like waiting to see when the Founders Edition was going to ship.
Oh,
it's
really?
like constantly rechecking and sorry V.
Yeah, no worries. For me, it was just the technology that really excited me. It's like, I am an avid gamer. I've got PlayStation, I've got PC, I've got Switch. I'm a multi-platform gamer, but Stadia was the one that actually was exciting. The other ones were just a means to an end to play games, but Stadia had like different technology, and they were building their own custom hardware. They would make their own Linux OS. They weren't just using a Windows VM in the internet and then just having some hardware somewhere and just playing some games off it. It was something brand new and unique, and the latency was that when they were talking about it in their talks, and how they were handling latency, how they were handling all of the hardware going to the data centers, all their endpoints, and just everything behind it just sounded so much more promising than any other cloud platform that's been announced since or before. And it was just that tech. So yeah, as soon as the Premier Edition was came out, as I just put my pre-order down, my friends were just like, well, what if it doesn't work out? I say, well, I'm willing to take that chance because it's exciting. It sounds fun and interesting. And as Scarlett mentioned before, when they were doing those, you're getting your code to be able to actually unlock it, and then people on the Discord, waiting for their codes. Have you received yours yet? Yeah, I've received mine. All that buzz and excitement when it was first being launched. That was just what really sort of hooked me into the whole community. But in terms of what got me into the actual thing of Stadia as a platform was just the exciting tech behind it, and just seeing what could come out of it and how well it could work potentially.
100%.
Yeah, the potential was the most exciting part. Like, especially as we got further into it, and like Orcs Must Die, which is a hilariously fun game. They're like, we're specifically making endless hordes, which is only achievable because of the cloud system. And I was like, this is so great. That's all I want, is to endlessly beat up these, orcs.
And things like the Stream Connect as well, where you can see, other people's views in real time, with the little picture-in-picture box. Some of the Stadia exclusive features, the SEFs, were just like so promising and so exciting at the time. It's just, it's a shame that it wasn't as adopted as much. But that, again, was something that really sort of got me passionate about the, Stadia tech as a whole.
I actually want to take this a step further and ask, what is the biggest feature that you're going to miss from Stadia that you can't find anywhere else? Or a feature that was in development that didn't come out? And I think I'll start this one off because it's just ripe in my mind, is the Stream Connect, a feature where, you have a YouTube live stream of a game, and then someone can link right in from the stream and actually start playing rather. So they're joining your stream, they're talking to you, and then they click and now they're in your game. Now, this is a feature that never actually, if I'm not wrong, I don't think it rolled out to all developers, but it was available, I think, in the game Creta at one point for a demo. Like, they might have used it for a demo, but it wasn't something that was prevalent, and it's not like, big games were doing this. So, do you guys have a particular feature you don't think you'll find elsewhere? Or if there is a feature about Stadia, what are you looking forward to using on another equivalent platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think they had that feature in Borderlands as well, which I think was quite cool. And that was a big game to obviously feature, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
For me, it was just the Stream Connect. So the one, like they had in Division 2, for example, where, again, you could just see what your teammates are up to. Again, it may seem like a really simple piece of technology, but actually it's a lot harder, because if you're not creating a stream of the video, if your local machine is having to, actually encode that video, send it off over the internet, that then has to be decoded by somebody else. You're sending 4 separate streams to each person. Each person's machine's having to, receive those streams and show them on. It becomes a bit of work. Whereas Stadia could just do that in the background. They literally are just rendering these videos, and they can just send multiple videos to a single person. So I want to see more happen with that technology. Like when you're playing It Takes Two, for example, if you've ever played it, or if you've played A Way Out, I think it's called, the one where you're in the prison, where you've got these multiplayer games, and that's where I really think that they missed out on a trick, is these multiplayer couch co-op games being played over the internet with, you can just see each other's streams, without any additional latency. Have it's potentially unlimited streams coming through to you, because all that has to happen in the background is they just has to patch these videos together and just send one video stream through to you. So you're only receiving and decoding one video stream. And that for me was just a piece of tech that I don't think you can get with traditional hardware at the moment, at least with the the power and the internet infrastructure required for that kind of thing. So that's the one feature that is the most gutting, and no other cloud platform has that, at least yet.
Yeah, that's a wild feature. I actually don't even remember that feature, but the way that you describe it also, it just sounds more impressive. You're thinking about how you would do that with traditional streaming technology. Scarlett or Lee, anything in particular?
So I know that other places have this, but I wish that direct YouTube streaming had actually been a thing from the beginning. It feels kind of weird that Google owning YouTube and then creating Stadia, that it wasn't a thing from the very beginning.
Yep.
But I think for me, what I'll actually miss the most was there was I was doing a live stream via GSN of playing Cake Bash, and that dorky little game is stinking adorable. And I think it was Zach, or it may have been Adam. It's probably Zach. Zach's like, he's like, you're playing. He's like, I'm gonna go buy the game and I'm gonna jump on. And so within 2 minutes, he bought the game and he was playing with me, as opposed to, having to wait to download it or put in an update or anything or whatever. He just bought the game and he was right in. And so I was able to have a friend join me on my live stream, and that just made it infinitely better. We're we're downloading stuff, on our Xbox and our PlayStation. It doesn't take too long if you're connected to the Ethernet. But after having played things on Stadia, it's just noticeable, though. You're like, it could be instantaneous.
Exactly. It's friction. It's pulling you.
Yeah.
It's making the experience cost you more time, more energy. And while, the, what's it called? The GeForce Now, this is a service that it is similar. It has similar attributes. But really, the only true competitor at this point is xCloud. And I think that's why a lot of the polls that I've seen have put xCloud as like the number one replacement to Stadia for a lot of Stadia people, and even buying an Xbox because of that sentiment. But I think you had a point.
Well, and for someone like me who's constantly like on the move, I got a kid that I got to keep an eye on. I got to be, going between my different offices and my house to make sure everything's going smoothly. Like, not having to sit around and wait for something to update because there's been a patch or download because we got a new game or anything. Like, I don't have to think ahead on making these things happen in order to enjoy my game. And this was something I said way at the beginning too. It's like, for somebody who, also worked in the garage a lot, it's like I can just play on the Wi-Fi. I pull up my phone and I can just connect it to my controller and I'm able to play on the phone while I'm staring at my laser machine to make sure nothing catches on fire. It just became so versatile without having to worry about like high prices or, ridiculous whatevers. Like, it just worked really well in my life.
100%. And lastly, Lee, anything in particular with Stadia you think you won't find elsewhere, or that you'll like to emulate elsewhere?
Yeah, I think just following what V said, the Stream Connect feature was, I thought, amazing. I still remember the first time I saw it in action was on the Division 2, I believe it was. And I was just amazed by it. Like, just random squad up on Division 2, and one of the guys was a Stadia player, so automatically I can, see what he sees just in the corner of my screen. And I just thought that was really awesome. And then, what Scarlett says, the convenience of Stadia as well. I mean, I'll miss that because, yes, there is other cloud services out there, but they're not as convenient as Stadia. It's not as quick just to go on, buy a game, and get playing. Whereas Stadia, it had it all. On your phone, you could just, you click your phone on the apps there, you buy the game, you're ready to go. It was convenience level there's nothing. I mean, okay, xCloud
is the one that
is quite similar.
Very similar. Has the app, you could store.
And I think they'll definitely be in a stronger position should they start rolling out the ability to stream games from your own library as opposed just to the Game Pass library, which I believe is going to come very soon.
Exactly. Yes, I think that was a point I wanted to get to as well. Before we get into that, though, I was wondering what would you say is the target, not target necessarily, but the demographic or the target interest group that kind of conglomerated towards Stadia? Because the way that I look at it, it was a lot of gamers who either were retired from gaming and got back into it for the convenience factor, or were relatively casual gamers and wanted a new way to game on the go or potentially replace an older console they had. And generally speaking, very open-minded. Usually the person in the Stadia community that I spoke with was, I just want to play games. I don't really care how. Would you guys echo that statement? As it was kind of I don't care if it's running on a fridge. As long as I can play the game that I want, I don't care what name or corporate brand is associated with it.
I mean, when you say running on a fridge, there literally was Stadia running on a fridge. I mean, if you go to the subreddit and you look at all the flares, all of those are verified devices that's run on, and one of them is a fridge. So,
wow.
Or those running machines at the gym.
Right there, on the Peloton.
Yeah. But I tended to find that the Stadia community was a bit of an older audience base, and I kind of liked that because it was a more mature and less. Yes. It had less of the the whole console war kind of thing. Because you did have the heavy Stadia defenders, and you had all this this other stuff. But for the large majority of it, I found that, most Stadia gamers are a lot maturer. They were a lot more willing to engage in conversation. They were excited by the technology. They just wanted to play their games, and they didn't want to, get involved in all the arguments and all the silly memes. I mean, if you go on to most gaming platform discords and even their subreddits, you'll find a different kind of conversation than you'd find in the Stadia one. In some of the other ones, you just basically find constant Pepe memes or stuff like that in a lot of other discords. But when you go into the Stadia Discord, it actually felt like a proper community, and I met some really awesome people. And people talking about their days, and sometimes they talk about their kids, and about work, and about politics. Like, people would actually talk about
meaningful things, right? Not just screw you. You have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation.
Yeah.
So, Lee, what would you say? Would you?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Pete. I think it was people who, maybe older generation people who perhaps got a lot going on in life. Kids, jobs, and Stadia just gave them a way to play games. The games they wanted to play quicker, faster. They didn't have to come home and you switch on your Xbox and. Call of Duty's got a 112 gigabyte download, and you think, right, well, you're not playing Call of Duty tonight unless you've got super fast internet.
I mean, if you're on Stadia, you're not playing Call of Duty anyway.
Well, using an example. But yeah, so I think it just appealed to people like that. I mean, but then on the other side of it, myself, yes, I'm older. I've got 2 kids, so I'm not like when I was younger when I could just game whenever But at the same time, I've got a Series X. I've had a Series X since launch. I've had a PS5 since launch. So, but Stadia was still definitely more than a PS5. If a game came on Stadia, I bought it on Stadia. That's where I played it. So, would I fit into a more hardcore gamer type person? I'm not sure. But yeah, I think as V said, an older gamer, it just made an easier place for people to play games quicker. The games that they wanted to play.
Scarlett, would you agree Stadia gamers were very pleasant, nice people?
I mean, I'd say for the most part, but I also made sure to not follow or interact with those who were probably the more toxic people. I very much cultivate who I interact with. And so like when Stadia Source wanted me to come on as a guest for one of their shows, I mean, like, that's the other thing. How many groups suddenly formed to create Stadia podcasts?
Right.
And I joke about this because my 3 fellow people here are 3 bearded men, but a lot of them were, bearded white men groups. But it was funny because it was like, it brought together people who normally wouldn't have spoken to each other or been friends or created a business or even a community. Like, we had, the Super Saturdays, we had people who were doing 24-hour streams to do charity stuff. I'm sure in PlayStation or Xbox, the individuals do these kinds of things, but I really felt like Stadia became a way for people to just work together. Yeah. And maybe that's because it was targeted more towards the on-the-go adults, the parents who don't have time, the whatevers, the people who can't be at home to play their games, so they want something to play on their lunch break. And there were just a lot of really great people that I've met. That's what it was for me. I know this is going to sound super cheesy and corny, but Stadia for me wasn't the games, it was the people that I've met. Yep. Stadia Source, especially GSN, that has been one of the highlights for me in the last, 3 years of my life.
It's incredible.
I mean, I'll echo that sentiment. It's not a case of I'm not part of the Stadia community for the games or for anything like that. It's for the people. I'm not I don't go around moderating a load of subreddits. I don't moderate a load of discords like that. Literally, it's just Stadia, and it's only because I've grown to know the people there. I care about the community, and I got involved with that kind of thing. It's not like I'm you find some people who are Discord moderators of 20 different Discord servers, and they do it just because for me it's just a case of I love the people there, and I got asked to do it because I was quite actively involved, and then one thing led to another, and I just worked my way through the server. But it's a case of the community is just, I met so many awesome people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and I'm still thankful for that. And, you know, like I'm not bitter about Stadia closing down, because, you know, if Stadia hadn't have been open at any point, I would have met a lot of people that I really care for now. So, you know, the community really was, I think, the best feature of Stadia.
Exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
and I
when-
also don't have to worry about like 12-year-olds beating me in like games like I can on like PlayStation. Like,
You obviously
Not
never took
going
part in some
there.
of our Discord events. Honestly, we got
well,
beaten by 9-year-olds.
jeez.
you know, and the run up to Stadia, I just started my own little blog, just doing little bits of Stadia news, because I thought, yeah, it was a cool thing to do, and I was enjoying it. And then just I knew who, you know, the big sites. I mean, Stadia Source obviously was there at that point, and to me, they were like the rock stars of the Stadia news. And then all of a sudden one day, you know, Adam, Original Penguin, pops me a DM on Twitter, and he says, "Hey, listen, you know, the guys really want to join. Do you want to join the team? We would really love to get you on board." And I'm so glad I said yes, because it's been Stadia Source. The Stadia Source part of Stadia for me has been amazing. Like that whole journey, everything we did, the work it went in, you know, the people I've met, it was absolutely fantastic. And someone said to me, and it was in another podcast, you know, would you change anything knowing now what's happened? And I was like, absolutely not. I'd go back and I'd do it all again, because it was, you know, don't get me wrong, GSN, Gaming Source Network's not going to stop, but of course the Stadia Source part of it will, but the Stadia Source part of it was amazing.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, I think not only the amount of publications, the amount of YouTube channels, small, medium, size, large, that created Stadia specific content, it's pretty unprecedented, because we haven't had a new true platform in quite some time. You know, you don't see 10 Luna channels popping up. So I think that will definitely sit with everyone moving forward. Let's move on to our last topic here, which would probably be, what was your favorite Stadia memory? I guess I could start this one. I would definitely say it was the first time we revealed anything about the game coming to Stadia. We had tweeted a picture of a game character thinking about Stadia, and I remember it did the rounds on Twitter. It got a couple of retweets, and a lot of positive sentiment went around. And then obviously with the Kickstarter, which was crazy, and we had so much support, we released the trailers on Stadia. But yeah, that initial excitement, it was just immediate. We had posted one thing on Twitter, and it just did the rounds, and that was really exciting. Do you guys have anything you'll never forget happened on Stadia or around Stadia?
I mean, that tweet of yours got so much reposted on Reddit. It's unbelievable. We had to remove so many, and it was like 20 people just reposted it one after the other. It's like, oh my god, okay, we'll leave the first one, and then we'll, you know, have to get rid of all the rest. There's so much. But yeah, that really did break things. You could see that people were really passionate about it. And as soon as you guys said, basically, I remember the actual tweet itself as well. It's just the thought bubble with the Stadia in it, and it just, people went wild for that.
Yeah, it really is a shame we never got to release on the platform. I mean, I've been dying to meet with our account representative. I was hoping maybe we could even just try and get something out, even though it's shutting down, but I don't think they'll let us do that. We'll see. But it will live on. As you said, with the community and with the game being still alive, I think it will live on to some degree. Scarlett, Lee, do you guys have any particular memories?
You can go first.
You know, a memory always sticks with me was when the very first time I played Stadia, and it was the night. I think it was the day of the launch. I don't know if you guys remember. There was the whole thing with you had to get the code emailed to you, so you could get access to Stadia, and they were rolling out in waves, and the founders, people's founders editions didn't arrive till like a day or so afterwards. So it was about 9 p.m. UK time on the day of Stadia's launch, and my code dropped into my email, and I was like, right, I need to try this. So I got my laptop out and I connected my Xbox controller to it, and I put on Destiny. Of course, went through the whole process, put Destiny 2 on, and I still just remember the first time that I just even moved my character on Destiny 2, and I thought, oh my, this works. I was like, this actually works. I couldn't it would been this whole thing for months. If Stadia's come in, and it's here, and it's amazing. It works, It really does work, and for me, that'll always stick with me. I think I've got a screenshot. I got my Stadia account. I've got a screenshot of Destiny 2 when I was doing that, and it was just amazing.
All right, guys. I know actually V has COVID, so I don't want to keep him too long. But I do just two quick last things. One is, what will your Stadia stimulus check be? And two, what game do you have the most hours on Stadia? I'll start. My Stimmy check will be, I think, $120. Nothing crazy, but I'll take the $120. And then most hours is Red Dead. I probably played like 50, 60 hours of Red Dead 2. And that was like a huge Stadia game for me because I played on a huge TV and there was no, I didn't have to have my big console or PC in the room, and it was great. So you guys, any stimulus check and favorite most time played?
Mine will be about 350, I think.
Oh, very nice.
Because I got like the Founders Edition, and then I got the Gold Edition of Phoenix Rising because I was very into that. Now I will have to restart and play it on Game Pass, I suppose, but that's fine. I do want to say though, because you skipped me, my favorite part.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even. I'm sorry about that. No, please.
No, it's okay. I have so many multiple favorite parts, but one that you'll remember, of course, was that the creation of Arax.
Oh, of course, yes. Of course, that was awesome. I remember that. Yeah.
That was tons of fun for me, and I love being like on that stream and like just the general excitement that like the true Stadia community, like take out the trolls, take out the whatever, take them out of the picture. The true Stadia community was just vibrant and alive and wanted everything to happen, and they were so there for you guys, and I loved seeing it. That part, the actual positivity of Stadia, that was my favorite part. But yeah, Arax creation, that was awesome. That was a giddy moment for me. I was like, ah!
Yeah,
I didn't expect you guys to say yes.
We had a huge turnout. We had like almost 100 people in the live stream. I remember there was just booming excitement. Everyone was just going crazy. So that was awesome. And favorite most hours played, Scarlett. Any game you think you played the most?
Probably Phoenix. Potentially Blue Fire, actually. I was trying really hard to beat that game. That's hard. Blue Fire is actually a really hard game.
I actually don't know.
It's kind of it. I don't know how to describe it. Platformy, Zelda-esque. You gotta use like 5 different move combos in order to like jump across things. It's pretty fun though. You should check it out.
It looks cool actually. I like the art style.
Yeah.
Awesome. Lee, stimulus check and most hours played.
Oh, stimulus check. Surprisingly, when I tallied it up, it's £1,060.
Wow. So you've got a nice
give or take.
That's a nice amount.
When I did it, I was like, yeah, I put a lot more money into this platform than I thought. To be honest, but yeah. And the game, the most hour played, easy. That's Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
100%.
Well north of like 120, 30 hours in that. That yeah, absolutely. I guess, and I said one of my best memories was Destiny 2, but I think another memory was playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because it was the first time I played the game, and I did it all on Stadia, and that was amazing experience. Because for me, just such an awesome game. I loved it.
So you who did nothing but heavy attacks, who was that?
Yes. So the funniest story about that is I beat the main game, and I think that took me about near enough 90 hours, and then I actually played a little bit of Assassin's Creed Origins, and I went through the tutorial of that, and I thought, the combat in Origins is really like faster, and it's like, why did they change it from Odyssey? So then I put Odyssey back on Stadia, and I thought, I'm going to try this, and I clicked the fast attack button, the same one from Origins, and here's this fast attack, and I was like, oh my word. So I had actually played the entire game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, just doing the heavy attack. So I completed the game, I was moving on to the DLC part of it, and I just, for like 90 hours, I just done the heavy attack. That was it. I didn't do the fast attack at all. Which I think it's funny, but I think it's a bit of an accomplishment, if I'm honest.
This is now a challenge for all Odyssey players: is to beat the game only using heavy attacks.
I did not do it in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I used the fast attack for that.
Honestly, you almost killed me just then.
Yeah, that game is way too cumbersome for that Valhalla. So such an in-depth game, but all right. Lastly, V, any remarks on stimulus check or most played?
Yeah, so my stimulus check I've worked out to be £1,769.61.
Whoa.
I worked it out exactly because, why not? And it may not be my most hours played, but I think the hours that I've probably most valued from Stadia is the Little Nightmares series. So Little Nightmares, the DLC, and Little Nightmares 2. Just such fantastic games. First games I actually streamed as part of my BV Plays sort of thing, and if you've never played the games, I would 100% recommend them. I'm not into horror games at all. I'm the most wimpy person you'll ever meet when it comes to horror games, but these are puzzle games that are so endearing and the most scary and horrifying things. It's basically like playing the video game equivalent of Coraline, which I swear is the most horrific film of all time.
That's a great movie, though.
It's not a kid's
Tim
film.
Burton.
It is not a kid's film.
It is not
No.
a kid's film.
No,
No.
not a kid's film.
Well, if you can give it
Another
that glowing
novel
of
is
a
the
recommendation, and I hate horror things too, then I may have to check those out finally.
Yeah,
Definitely do.
I'm a
It's
wimp
worth it.
when it comes to horror games. I cannot do them.
Me too.
Yeah.
Avery's
I did a
stream
charity
with Resident Evil.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Resident
was
Evil
just
Village
thinking
was
that.
good.
I was
on
going to say,
Stadia.
Resident Evil 7, I just streamed recently for charity, and I made over £1,000 because I was bricking it that much, I think. Really, I'm really not good with horror games. I'll never go back to that. But Little Nightmares got through the entire thing. It's amazing. 100% recommend it.
I'll take your recommendation. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think we'll do some closing. I don't think this will be the last time we stream about Stadia, or you guys, stream about Stadia. There's still some time left. We don't know what Google will release in the next 6 weeks or 12 weeks. So, let's stay in touch on the Stadia topic, but looking forward into the future, this isn't the end of cloud gaming. I did want to touch upon the future of cloud a little bit, but I think we all kind of know where it's headed. Xbox has the advantage. Luna's trailing behind. GeForce Now is a slightly different model, but this will definitely go down in history as one of Google's biggest stinks, because everyone knows the name, But at the same time, I think it will also go down in history as a great technical achievement and a pretty awesome community. So once again, thank you guys for joining, and thank you anyone who tuned in to listen, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.